Hi, my name is Stacy, and I'm a leader in CURE, the Coalition for Understanding Racism Through Education. And we're here this afternoon to interview Andrene Smith, who is one of 8 candidates for the Board of Education in the Merritt Union Free School District. The election coming up on May 18th, which is probably one of the most important elections that we participate in our life together. And so we're really grateful that you would come and listen to just hearing more about Andrene, one of our amazing candidates, and so that you can make an informed selection on May 18th. So Andrene, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. This is very exciting. I appreciate this opportunity.
Well, I've personally been so blown away by your advocacy and work in the last year plus since I've known you. And anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be a board member.
Sure. Well, I've lived in Mamaroneck since 2016, and I moved here because I was seeking something that I had where I grew up. I was born in Jamaica in a small town that probably no one has ever heard of, but the focus for us was on family, on education, and on community. And I felt that here, and that's why I chose Mamaroneck to move here for my son so that he could be a part of the excellent public schools here. I've been very engaged in youth and education issues as long as I can remember. I grew up just loving to read, loving to learn, sort of diving headfirst into my grandmother's barrel of books that she'd keep in the back of the house, trying to find something new to read. And I remember one day I came across this French book, and I'd never heard of French or seen French, but I saw it and I said, what is this? I really want to learn more about it. And that sort of inspired me as my family moved to New York when I was 13 years old. We moved to the Bronx. And when I went to high school there, they had French. And I flashed back to little me in Jamaica, head first in this barrel, coming up with this French lesson book and thinking, aha, that's what I want to learn. I remember that passion and that interest just to explore more. And I did that. And it's just been, I think, an example of the type of person that I am, just sort of jumping in, loving to research, loving to learn, loving to explore, loving to listen to all sides of an issue so that I can understand it better. And I've just been very excited jumping in here, Mamaroneck, getting involved. Once I moved here, I decided I didn't just want to sit back, I wanted to jump right in. So I joined the enrollment task force, which was looking at challenges we're facing at the time regarding spacing issues in our schools. And I'm currently serving on the district equity team, which is an exciting opportunity to work very closely with teachers, with parents, with administrators to figure out some of the tough issues facing not just our country, but also facing our community. And I also serve on the board of directors of Girls Inc. Westchester, which is an organization that really strives to help young girls here in Westchester become smarter and stronger and bolder. And that's been, I think, the emphasis of my career and my life. I started out my education at Stanford University in California because I wanted to learn a bit more about myself, to learn independence, to be able to focus not just in academics, but athletics, just to become more of a well-rounded person. And that led me to living and studying in Paris, where I earned my MBA at Schiller International University. And then after that, I thought I'd top it off with law school. So I went to Georgetown Law in DC. And I've been working as a lawyer ever since. Started out at a law firm, and then I went in-house at an insurance company, and I'm now managing counsel at Bank of New York Mellon in the city. So that sort of sums me up.
Wow. Wow. I mean, wow. What an incredibly impressive journey, which driven by curiosity and the desire to serve. So, I mean, wow. Thank you. And I know I'm another member of the DET, how incredibly passionately you've been serving in your role there. So thank you for that. CURE exists to expand education around systemic racism and inequity. How do you think our district can expand that education? And how will you as a board member lead to bring together the differing opinions in our district about the importance of equity and racial literacy?
Sure, that is a great question. So I really appreciated the CAST discussion series that you guys put on, and that I think is still happening. I think it was just an amazing learning opportunity for folks to dive in, explore difficult topics, and learn about what equity means in practice, because sometimes I think we think of it as something that impacts other people. But when we start exploring what it means deeply and we find out how it affects people personally, then that's just an excellent opportunity for education. And I think that school district can learn from that example. I'd love to see us partner a bit more on those types of initiatives where we're bringing in speakers that can be impactful, not just for parents, not just for teachers, but also for students. Maybe working together on training opportunities, identifying best practices and resources for how we can bring that into the community so that we can learn from you and you can learn from us. I really want to see more partnerships between the community organizations here in the Mamaroneck School District. I want to see families more engaged and involved. And I think that's an exciting way that we can increase engagement and make sure that parents and teachers and staff understand why racially literate education is so important. Because if you don't learn about yourself, you don't really love yourself. You don't see the value in yourself, and you don't learn about the contributions of your heritage. And that can cause self-esteem issues. It can cause people to feel isolated. And we don't want to have that in our community. We have a tradition of public excellence in terms of education. We want to make sure we continue to enhance that so that everyone is thriving. And I think working with partners like CURE and with other organizations here, we can do that. I think it's also important for board members to speak up on this issue. I've been at a few board meetings where I've heard them talk about the importance of it, and I'd like to see that translated into action as well. They just implemented an equity policy, which is amazing. They've allocated budgeting for equity services and resources, which is also amazing. I want to see how that pans out and make sure that we are driving towards progress and accountability, making sure that those resources they're serving our community well. So I think that's very important because we're stewards of those resources.
Wow, 100%. And sorry, my daughter just called me from the room. I think we, as CURE, definitely acknowledge daily and hourly that we are ongoing learners, but it does take us speaking up to say this is something we all need to learn about. And so those just sound like amazing ideas. Can you speak to what you believe are some of the issues around equity and access here in the Mamaroneck School District?
I think a lot of that is around data and who is learning about that data. If you go to the board meetings, you will hear them talk about some of the issues facing our students here in Mamaroneck. So you would have heard that Black students are disproportionately suspended, for example, in Mamaroneck. And you would have heard that students with IEPs or with disabilities are also disproportionately suspended. That's an issue of equity. And I think if people learn about that, then they will ask why. And once you start asking why, then you can start working on solutions together. We don't want to see our students who are living in poverty have much lower assessment scores in ELA and in math, but that's something that we're seeing across the board. And we have to figure out how to address it. We can't just say that's a matter of poverty. We can't just say that's because parents are, they're working 2 jobs and they don't have time to check homework or come to school. We have to figure out a solution to address the problem. And I think we can do that if we partner with our teachers, partner with our administrators, and work together to try to make sure the entire community understands what the problem is. And then we can all work together to identify solutions and then implement them. And I think those are some of the key issues. People don't see that. They don't understand the data, or they're not hearing the data. And then also they're not understanding the personal stories behind that. Students are struggling, and we want to make sure that we provide them with the resources that they need.
Yeah, we, when I look beyond Larchmont Mamaroneck, we need every resource of human resource and, young person resource and their intelligence and what they have to, and all kinds of intelligence, right, to add to what our world is needing and is going to need. And so, yeah, thank you. Communication and working together. What would you do as a trustee to ensure decisions made by the board are inclusive to the needs of all students and families?
Yeah, that's quite an important question. I think my most important job will be to listen and to ask questions. And so I think that means because one of my key priorities is restoring trust and transparency here in Mamaroneck. So that means communicating with all stakeholders using language that they understand, including students, including families, including teachers, including staff in those types of conversations. So I think I have to first ask the question, how can I be more inclusive? How can I make you feel more comfortable? How can I get you more engaged? What do you need to be able to participate? Is it translation services that you need? So maybe the focus should be there. Is it that the meeting times don't work well for the vast majority of working parents? Maybe we should consider that. Should we have town halls in different sections of the community so that they feel like we're coming to them and they don't just have to come to an environment where they don't necessarily feel comfortable? So I think those are things that we can do. And for those families that we still can't reach through those options, we can look at surveys. We can look at different ways, maybe suggestion boxes, for example, at board meetings to figure out different ways to get people involved. We can invite diverse stakeholders to our meetings to give their perspective on what is of most import to them. Like, what is most important to them? Let's bring them in. Should we invite CURE? Should we invite the MTA? Should we invite different stakeholders in just to share, these are our concerns, or these are our suggestions for how to drive success in Mamaroneck? I think we want to open our ears and listen to all voices.
That just makes me think, our school district doesn't live within a bubble, like you're talking about the layers of community and layers of what make us all function, as families and as humans, and all of that has an impact, right? Yep. And so, I mean, to involve all these people, I think would be really a new and exciting opportunity. I know you've been very involved with this on the DET. The next question is, the goal of an equity audit is to identify institutional practices that produce discriminatory trends in data that affect students. Schools and districts conduct audits to analyze data in various key areas such as systems and structures, quality instruction, student achievement, and hiring practices. Do you believe the Mamaroneck School District should engage in such a process? Why and why not?
So my answer is 100% yes. I'm actually part of the team, the subcommittee within the DET that's working on helping the district to select an auditor. So we just gave a presentation a few days ago of the top 3 recommendations for who the district should hire. And let me tell you, we have people who are excited to work with us, who have expertise and knowledge, and that can come in and help us figure out what are the issues facing our community. We know a lot of the issues. I mentioned a few of them a few minutes earlier, but understanding the root causes, I think, is more difficult. And that's what an auditor can come in and do. And when you work in different businesses, this is something that is routine. This is something that happens all the time. It only sounds special because you add the word equity in front of it. But we should be looking at different ways to measure issues and then coming up with solutions. And ultimately, that's all an equity audit is. It's not something that's scary. It's not something that's going to be disruptive. It's really just asking the question, what issues are we facing and what should we do to overcome them?
Yeah, like anything. I mean, if you don't seek to learn from, what's going on, you won't grow, right?
Yes.
And I think we all want our district and our community and our students to just continue to thrive and grow in even broader and greater ways. And thank you for your work on the DET, because I've seen that presentation.
I am passionate about it, so I'm happy to be there.
I mean, it's not a small amount of work that you guys have been doing, so thank you. How will you incorporate voices that are often left out of decision-making in our community? Please tell us how people can find out more about you.
Okay, so I have a website and social media for my campaign, and that website is teamandrene.com. And my social media handles are also Team Andrene, both on Facebook and on Instagram. So I have lots of information out there about me at those locations. In terms of your question, I think it's so important for us to understand other people's perspectives. For example, going back to the equity audit that you just asked me about, I've heard families say there isn't an issue of race here in Mamaroneck. And for those people, I think that's actually true, because they have not experienced issues of race or racism here in Mamaroneck, but there are other families that have. And when we have conversation together, we can learn more. And I think that's why it's important to incorporate voices that have been left out of the conversation previously, I would love to hear more from our Latino community here in Mamaroneck. I really would. I'd love to see more participation and involvement there. I'd love to see the school board provide more training to parents and stakeholders about the different ways to get involved, because maybe some people just don't understand what a school board is. They don't understand they should attend a school board meeting, and they don't understand what the school board does. But once they understand the impact, maybe they'll start showing up. So if we provide that information to them and we provide training to them and we encourage them to participate, maybe create a standing agenda item at board meetings where stakeholders can, come in and just raise their hand and offer encouragement or ask a question. That's different ways to incorporate multiple voices, because I've been attending board meetings for so long, and I tell you, we often hear from the same people on the same issues, and it's important to just hear about what's happening across the entire community.
100%. We will be putting your all your handles and names and addresses in along with this video. But in my last 15, 20 years, the words that keep coming to my head personally are attention and attention, and we all only have so much of it, and communication. And I really appreciate the clarity of your attention, communication, thoughtfulness, because I think the more that we can communicate in those ways with the community through the school board, the more we can draw people in. And so
and that is actually one of my top priorities, as I mentioned, trust and transparency, building back that relationship so people feel like they can become more engaged, they can understand a bit more, and they can see what the issues are and participate in driving solutions. And I've been focusing on equity because CURE is focused on equity, but I'm also, as part of my campaign, looking at partnerships. And I hope I've spread that message during my conversation with you guys. I'm looking at different ways to engage multiple stakeholders and build partnerships with them, with local businesses, for example, as well as with community organizations. And I'm also looking at making sure that we are focused, not exclusively, but making sure that everyone has a sense that they belong and they thrive. And that means we need to look at our budget too, and how our budget is allocated tells us something about the vision and direction of our board and our community. So we should be looking at that from a holistic assessment to figure out where we want to go. I was very happy to just jump in here and have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's just really an honor. Thank you, Andrene, so much for your investment. For this is not a small job that you're campaigning to take on, but I'm just so grateful for you and just your willingness to do it. So thank you on behalf of CURE and the community, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.